We're going to talk now about the use or abuse of intelligence. After 9/11,
Everything changed.
everything changed. Whoa, that's good. Yeah. All right. So, whereas before 9/11, Saddam Hussein had no weapons of mass destruction, was not even a threat to his own neighbors. After 9/11, weapons of mass destruction floated down like manna from the heavens for a soft landing on the sands of Iraq, where God made that terrible mistake of putting our oil. You don't get weapons of mass destruction in a couple of months or even a couple of years. And the sad thing that I would like to explain to you is that for the first time since I joined the Central Intelligence Agency's analysis group under John Kennedy in 1963, I watched my profession being corrupted by a president who wanted to make a war of aggression, and by a CIA director, George Tenet, who said, "Yes, sir, my instructions then are to fabricate, to dream up, to forge intelligence to justify this war. Yes, sir, I can do that." And he did. And my former colleagues participated in this fraud. So, please, when Bush left office, he was asked by one of these interviewers, "Do you have any regrets, Mr. President?" He said, "Yeah, I got one big regret, and that was the mistaken intelligence on Iraq." What's wrong with that? That wasn't a mistake, it was fraud. And he knew full well what was going on, and that happened, okay? Now, rather than rehearse all the abuses, and I've got more little clips than you can shake a stick at, I'm going to show you something that shows what happens when you lie. Shows what happens when you start a war of aggression, as defined by Nuremberg. In Nuremberg, after World War II, the tribunal said to launch a war of aggression is to perpetrate the supreme international crime, differing from other war crimes only insofar as it contains the accumulated evil of the whole. Whoa. It's pretty serious stuff, folks. I was alive during World War II, and I learned very quickly what that accumulated evil was. Anybody got any suggestions as to what we're talking about here? Anyone? Just shout out. Torture? Kidnapping people off the streets of Western Europe? Putting them in black prisons around the world? Trashing our Fourth Amendment? There was another one?
Rendition.
Can't hear.
Rendition.
Rendition, yeah, okay. So you kidnap them off the streets of Europe, you render them, isn't that a neat word? You render them to places like Egypt or Syria, both of which countries cooperated in our enhanced interrogation techniques as defined by President Bush. Now, something I just pass along to you, you probably haven't heard, but you know, enhanced interrogation techniques is a direct translation of the German for torture. Verschärfte Vernehmung are the two German words. Anybody know German here? Verschärfte, okay, sharpen. Vernehmung, interrogation techniques. Verschärfte Vernehmung appears as a title in the Gestapo handbook, and I have a copy of it if you'd like to see it. So whether they realized it or not, they were using the same label for these techniques, except in a different language. And guess what, folks? Almost all of the techniques were the same. That's accumulated evil. Now, there was a fellow in Baghdad sent there during the surge. You've heard a lot about the surge in 2007. And his name was Bradley Manning. Now his name is Chelsea Manning. And he was with a little group that was asked to round up people who were subversives and he was asked to arrest and put in prison some young people his age who had written term paper about the corruption in the Iraqi government. And he said, this isn't right. And this is especially not right because you know, he said to his superiors, you know what goes on in Iraqi prisons. And they said, yeah, but it's, it's none of your business. Go back, keep your mouth shut. Well, he knew what went on there. Torture went on there. And he felt really bad about being compelled to do this. And then he got on his console there and saw a lot of other things that were going on. He decided that he owed it to the American people to show them what was going on. And so he released an awful lot of information, among which was something called collateral murder. Now, some of you may have heard of this, but most of you have not seen it because of the media in our country. And I want to say something about the media before I forget. I try to say this every time. I've been in Washington 52 years now. 52, okay? You see a lot of change in 52 years, but there's one change that dwarfs all the other changes in significance. And that is that we no longer have, in any real sense, a free media. That could not be bigger. Tom Jefferson, when he was asked if you had a choice between a government and a free press, newspapers in those days, which would you choose? He said, no problem. Free press every time. Without a free press, you get a dictatorship like that with a government. So what I'm saying here is that the reason that our media and our government have such a dislike, I would say even hatred, toward Bradley Manning, who's away for 35 years now in a federal prison, Julian Assange, who's holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, afraid to go out into the air where the British police would round him up and send him right back to the United States, or back to the United States, is because they fear these revelations. 4 million, count them, Iraqi refugees. 2 seeking homes in their own country, 2 million seeking homes or having found homes in adjacent countries. There are 4 million Syrian refugees. And I was in Germany just 2 weeks ago, and there was this big discussion about, should we take 10,000, 160,000, what, how should we do it? And nobody asked, well, how come there are so many refugees, all right? So you've got to ask yourself these questions, folks. And you in Iowa are uniquely placed to ask candidates who would be our president tough questions. You need to get educated on these things because you can't get educated from the so-called mainstream media. You have to go to places like German television to find out what's really going on. And the best place to get information in this country is a website called democracynow.org. 15 minutes straight news every morning, Monday through Friday, and then things I learned about this country that I never knew from the history books, and a lot of stuff has happened since I had history books, right? So, all I'm saying is that, if we're going to be responsible Americans, we have to know this stuff. We can't ferret it out of the mainstream. If you think of getting the news by sitting down in the evening and watching TV, you're sadly mistaken. If you think you're getting a right slant on things like Ukraine, or real powder cake, from reading the New York Times and the Washington Post, forget about it. You're not, okay? Short story on the Ukraine. We started it. We achieved a coup that George Friedman, head of Stratfor, one of the major think tanks, described as the most blatant coup in the history of mankind. Why? Because the planning for this coup between the Assistant Secretary of State for European Affairs and the ambassador we have in Kiev, their conversation about who they picked to be the new prime minister was YouTubeized 2.5 weeks before the coup. Yachts is our guy, said Victoria Nuland. Yachts. Let Klitschko and the others wait in the wings. Yachts is our guy. 2.5 weeks later, I wake up, turn the television on. There's been a coup in the Ukraine. And who's the new prime minister?
Yachts.
Yachts! I wrote an article right away. Yikes! It's yachts! Okay? And who's the prime minister now? Anybody? Oh, come on. Oh, you don't know who's prime minister now of Ukraine? Yachts! Yachts! No, Poroshenko is the president. So, you know, you gotta kind of find out what's going on. Everybody thinks Putin bad, Putin very bad, Putin very, very bad. Sometimes have no shirt on, sometimes ride horse with no shirt on. Putin very, very bad. Invades Ukraine. Did Putin? Everybody who thinks Putin invaded Ukraine, please raise their hand. Okay, well, this is pretty well informed. How did he get the Crimea back after the coup? What was there? A plebiscite. And how many Crimeans wanted to be re-annexed to Russia? 90%? And they knew that's what it was going to be. Crimea's always been part of Russia. What makes Crimea so important? Yeah, their naval, their warm water port, their only one, okay? That's where they have their naval. So, all I'm saying, folks, is it's the best thing for all of us, and particularly you Iowans now, in these next 3 or 4 months, to do your homework, get one sensible but direct and the kind of question that people can't dance around, okay? And ask it to these people. And that way, we back in Washington, you know, you get on our television, you know, we see this stuff. And to the degree you can make a real conversation out of these things, America will be better in general. So